Okay, we are back, rolling again with a new Feature Bootcamp. This is the first official session, though we had a week 0 before this, where we sort of dove into some of the fundamentals, and we talked about this idea of action writing and how this class is going to be focused on action-style storytelling. So you don't have to be writing, and actually, there we go, let me fix that. You don't have to be writing an action movie to be in this course, but a lot of the specifics of the instruction will focus just around a certain theme moving forward. And with TV, our upcoming theme is going to be mystery. So we have plenty of free classes and events. Most of you guys know this by now. We're part of Skill Camp, which includes things like Word Camp that runs novel boot camps every Saturday from 12 to 2, including one tomorrow. We also just added things like Game Camp, where we are running another brand new bi-weekly event, Game Design Workshop, every Monday 11 to 1. And Wednesdays, 6 p.m. We have plenty of others being added all the time. New skills like AI, coding, graphic design. You can find all this info at scriptcamp.net, which is our main website for now, though that will change soon as we are soon to unveil a new website. But for the moment, it's going to be scriptcamp.net, which is where you can sign up and get access to every single thing we offer here with our unlimited subscriptions. You can find that just by going to scriptcamp.net and signing up here for unlimited membership, which includes access to everything on WordCamp, FilmCamp, Code, Tune, Game, Lingo, Creator, AI, Design, everything else. So as for me, everyone here knows me, but for those just watching the videos or joining for the first time, I'm mostly a feature writer in Hollywood. Recently set up a project that I cannot quite say too much about yet, but we will soon. But writing action, horror, and thriller movies in Hollywood and London. And a little bit of TV as well, such as writing for Creepshow back in 2019. That's ancient history now, though. I gotta move on. Can't keep banging that drum forever. So, we have boot camps and labs. I teach at least 5 of these events a week. That would be boot camp for feature TV and novels. So that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I also teach 2 lab sessions, which are like a place you can go with questions that you have based on what you're working on, or up to 5 pages for feedback. That's going to be every Friday, 12 to 2, and Saturday, 4 to 6. So, sign up if you've not already signed up. Let us know if you're interested in signing up, but you haven't yet, or if you have any questions. Always glad to take those. As for everyone here, you guys are longtime members. So, I think you guys know the drill by now. Week 0, we try to just get the very basics of what the logline is. Week 1, we continue to refine that, and this week you're going to try to really solidify that and finalize it, and fill out your sketchbook, which you could have started last week if you were there, or if you wanted to. Sketchbook being that sort of unsorted document of all of your ideas and influences and research and inspiration for any one given project. So you want to keep that all in the same place, not in a bunch of different post-it notes all over your house or anything like this. So make sure that you are filling that in during the class, and I would just have that open in another tab and be working, answering questions, filling out things that you aren't sure about, writing down whatever you're working on, and also just gathering information, pictures, links, videos, articles, everything. So next week is on one-sheets and story beats. After that, we go into... go ahead.
Oh, just going to say, I think that's a typo. I think this week is the story beats, so that's a typo there.
Oh, okay, my mistake.
So next week is just the synopsis. Sorry.
Oh, I thought we were pitching the refined version of the initial feature this week. Was that not the plan?
Yes. So
we're doing both.
It's an action-packed.
No kidding.
Action-packed week.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Works for me. The more, the merrier. I'm gonna check the chat because I see some comments here. Oh, this is not a question for me. It looks like somebody working on a logline. Okay. So let's finish with the overview. So yes, we spend the first half of the course on the planning, and the second half of the course is on the writing. So the first 4 weeks are on figuring out what is your idea, what is the really solid core foundation to your premise, and then after that we are going into figuring out what is the major events of the story, and from there refining down into scene cards, and once you have a full paragraph for every scene, you are moving into writing pages. So here's the upcoming schedule. We have upcoming Feature Bootcamp. That's Sundays at 11. That actually only has 2 meetings left, as you can see here. We have this one upcoming on subplots, and then at the very end, sort of summing it up, we have a rewrite crash course, and then that one will change to TV. That is going to be the new slots starting September 1st. It's going to be mystery-themed, mystery pilot writing on the 1st. Then we go right into story engine, loglines and beats, one-sheets for TV, and scene work. So we're going through the 6-week program for TV, 8 weeks for features, and 90 days for novels. We still have quite a while left in that one, up to September 7th, where that's our final lab where we'll be wrapping up the novel. And we'll be starting to get ready for our follow-up, whenever that will be starting, usually within the next couple weeks. Oh, I somehow activated Siri. What did I say? I just heard her, like, talk from my phone across the room. Go to bed, Siri. Did it work? Not sure. Siri's kind of like a Furby in a way. You tell it to go to bed and it just doesn't listen. Okay, so let's take a look. So who was here last week? Did you finish your logline? What stage are you at? Just give us an update as to where you are and what you're working on at the moment. Let's go straight down the list. We'll start with Judea.
Hello, Skippy.
Did you say skip me?
I'm just here to listen today. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Let's go to Luke.
Hello, I was not here last week, but I do have action log lines if we need one.
Great. Okay. So you're at the logline stage then, I guess, for this upcoming project?
I mean, I have different ones in different stages, so I could pull out one that's sort of in Act 1, I could pull out one that's in pre-writing, or I could do something new. I mean, I have all kinds of log lines that are action-based.
Oh, okay. So let me just ask, what did you want to write in this course? What did you want to focus on? Are you still deciding?
I mean, this is just Feature Bootcamp. It can be any feature. So if I'm working on any feature out of my sort of big pile, it would probably be Kids on Fire.
Okay,
the
cool.
dramedy.
That's right. We talked about some of the basics of that, maybe like the first act or so. Okay, cool. So yeah, you've got a couple different things that you are switching between. Normally we suggest to stick with one project to try to finish it in a boot camp, but if you're at different stages, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's up to you to manage that however you want. Let's keep going down our list. Nacho, are you working on your feature for this course?
Yes,
Great.
I do have an action logline. Mm-hmm.
A new one, or are you still refining
Yep.
your feature in progress?
No, this is a brand new project.
Great. Okay, well, you can post it in the chat. We'll come back to that in just a minute. Mario, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So this is something I've been working on in a magically hidden sorcerer's university located under Baxter Park. 6 graduate level students are selected to reseal a minor demon, but the ritual goes wrong and opens a portal to an ancient demon warlord and his readied army. The graduates escape into a bubble dimension, with the key to close the portal, but the surviving members suspect one of them of being a saboteur, and until this is resolved, they can't leave.
Okay. Right, yeah, I think you mentioned this before. It's like Harry Potter, Reservoir Dogs crossover was the basics. Sounds interesting. It doesn't quite sound like an action movie to me, but I'm guessing you're saying that they end up sort of fighting it out in the bubble place that they're stuck in?
Yeah, it's like Reservoir Dogs, except
Yes.
Harry Potter.
But Reservoir Dogs is not an action movie. It's a crime drama. Right.
It's actually a character piece, to be honest. It's a disguise as a heist drama.
So character piece is not a genre of movie in my analysis. I mean, we usually call that a drama. So to me, at least...
Oh, drama.
Yeah, drama. There are movies that I guess would be particularly character focused, but then again, you could call almost anything a character piece if it just has enough of that, focus on the character. Whatever, we don't have to split hairs about it. But anyway, I see what you're going for. There are action sequences, but we're in a secluded, isolated location, right?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you for that. Seems like you have already started, so you're a little bit ahead. That's all fine. Let's check with Vivian. Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Hello.
Hi. You want to give us an update? What are you working on? What stage are you at?
I'm still, I just wanted to see what was happening in here, but, as far as what I'm currently working on, I'm starting up State of Affair again. The one that was the first thing I made in the boot camp with in the that was like one of the first finished scripts I made, the first finished pilot script I made. So I'm starting that one up again. I'm rewriting that with a friend, and we might be actually animating it and stuff. And then I'm still finishing my on the outlining portion of my anthology script.
At the outlining portion. Okay, so you're on scene cards or something like that?
Yeah, I'm on scene cards for the second story in the thing.
For the second story. Okay. So
Yeah,
that's
it's an anthology film. It's
anthology, right, okay. So, but you're outlining them sequentially rather than... I guess you're saying you are... If there's like 4 films, you're about 25% of the way through plotting it, is that right?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like
Understood?
like around 50%. I don't know.
Okay, cool. 50%. Sounds good. Well, you have a little bit of a head start as well, but that's fine. All right, did I miss anyone? Michelle.
Hey.
Hi. Do you want to give us an update on your progress on your movie?
Oh, on my movie? Oh, you mean the horror movie?
Any movie you're working on. Yeah, this is Feature Bootcamp, so your current feature project.
Oh, that's right. It's feature, not novel. Okay. Okay. I'm as far as the horror movie, it's been outlined, but I did talk to y'all in the past a few weeks ago about some things I'm going to have to change about like either the opening scene and how is it that she's found out by the detective, and who is actually who is the main the main character. Is it the detective and the or the killer? And Connor, you suggested the detective, and I kind of want it to be the killer, but it does, since I'm not experienced, it does make more sense for it to be the killer. I mean the detective. So I'm gonna have to rework some of that, but initially it's outlined, and I'd gone to pages. Um, but I tend to skip scene cards and go to pages, which I should go back and do scene cards. I know.
Okay, I see. So you're still reworking the concept a little bit, it sounds like.
Yeah, it is major points, but to me, since I have all of it plotted out, then that it doesn't feel that major, you know. And I think just reworking it a little bit will help me determine who is actually the main character. Um, so yeah, but that's the status. But what I'm focusing on right now is the sci-fi novel. That's what I'm focusing on. Um, but and the other movie that I want to do is the historical drama about the 1900 hurricane that hit Galveston, and I've finished the novel about the man who's going to be the main character, and I've plotted it all, but I haven't like done everything else. That's like in the way back burner.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for that update.
Oh sure.
I think that's everyone. Did I miss you? Did I miss anyone? Let me know. Okay. I see somebody... There are people in the chat that are just not in the voice, I guess. They just want to chime in from afar. That's okay. Or if you're watching on one of our different sites, or different social media sites, like YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, or Facebook, or Kick, or something like this, you should come join us on Discord, which you can find by going to scriptcamp.net. And... scriptcamp.net. And you can find the link in the top right corner to join our Discord server and participate in these classes live. Okay, so let's dive in we are going into week 1 of this new class. So if you haven't already done so, create that sketchbook. That's going to be a blank Google document that includes just title, genre, logline, and comps right at the top, or fields for those things. If you don't yet know the answer to those things, you're going to start filling those out as you discover the answers. And in the sketchbook, there's no real right or wrong things to include. There's no template for it. It's going to be a place to collect your notes, sketches, and ideas as you develop your story. The only template is going to be at those 4 things at the top: title, genre, logline, and comps. And that's how you sort of figure out the very baseline premise of what your movie is. And then as you continue to work through this, you're going to come up with great lines of dialogue, rules for the worlds. If you have links or articles or pictures or anything else which you just think help inform the story, or maybe there's research that you've done and you want to make sure that you are collecting and collating that all in one place, the sketchbook is the best place to do that, as well as brainstorming dialogue, endings, possible moments, photos, drawings, or just anything else that inspires your writing here. So we talked loglines last week, and we talk loglines so often here on Script Camp, and here in just the world of screenwriting in general, because it's that one sentence at the core of your story that expresses what it is and that we want to establish from the very early stage. You want to make sure you have a working logline because it's the most ground-level concrete foundation for the building of your movie. If the foundation is shaky, then the more that you build on it, the stronger chances that something will collapse, or you'll realize, wait, this wasn't that great of an idea in the first place. So you have to make sure that the logline's working and sounds intriguing and interesting and can therefore act as that essential piece of marketing to get someone to read the story. And then potentially make the movie if they are the kind of person reading loglines to try to find something they can make. And beyond that, you're trying to write that one sentence that keeps you on track and keeps you focused and is going to keep you able to be writing this same project week after week for 8 weeks. Then you finish and you can immediately assess, did I write the movie I set out to write? Or did I drift too far from my original intentions, and will I have to either rework the logline to reflect the movie I ended up with, or do I want to keep the logline the same and rework the script to reflect that? And of course, you don't want to take the lazy way out of saying, well, I guess I'll just update the logline to fit whatever I ended up with, and that's just fine. Your movie has to sort of live up to that logline. That's why, like, the logline is not just a sort of guide, it's like a standard to hold yourself to. Does that make sense? Like, the concept as you express in that logline should sound so good and cool that you measure your success by how well you stuck to that and delivered on those promises that you made. I hope that makes sense, and that makes it clear why loglines are important. It's more than just like some annoying sentence that's here to like annoy you. Like, some people seem to really struggle with these and say, what is this for? It's ruining my life. I hate writing loglines, all these things. But it's there to help you, and having a really strong one will help you. And yes, it's hard to write, because writing is hard. And if you're, quote, terrible at loglines, chances are you're just newer at writing, or you haven't built certain skills at the foundational level yet that you need to come up with a strong premise and then stick to that premise, because that's 2 separate skills. We don't think of that as being separate skills, but 2 separate skills are: 1, come up with a good idea; 2, continue to have faith that it is a good idea and build a complicated piece of machinery around that central idea, the piece of machinery obviously being the movie. So you have to actually stick to that idea and not drift off course or get bored with it or think, oh, this isn't actually good enough halfway through. You have to work up to the point where you're writing loglines that you can and that you want to stick to all the way through. I hope that's really clear. The goal here is to, and especially with the whole bootcamp structure, the whole idea is that we're trying to move you from idea to idea. So from feature to feature to feature. And you're writing a feature in 8 weeks all the way through. Do your absolute best and then move on to the next one. And put the last one away, and you can come back and edit it later if you want to, or you can put it on ice, or you can abandon it, or you can do whatever you want with it. But the point is, you need to be finishing and moving on to the next thing, or you're not building skills. You're not making certain connections that you need to make, and you're ultimately not improving as much as you need to be. Okay, so so I can just sort of answer this question, why bother with the logline? Why is it important? I hope that's clear why it is important. And at the end of the day, there's always this question of, like, does it matter? And the answer is always sort of like, oh, someone is yelling right outside my apartment. That was weird. A good thing I'm on the 2nd floor, so unless it was some sort of wall-climbing thief or Spider-Man, I should be safe. So we have marketing and we have the writing purpose. And lastly, just I think as an evaluatory tool, I'm going to maybe even modify the slide to add that, because it is like a metric to assess your level of success here. How well did you write the movie? Well, how well does it deliver on the promises in the logline? So here's the basic premise for it, or here's the basic steps. We have when or after inciting incident, an adjective protagonist must conflict before stakes. We've all seen this a million times, and now I think would be a good time to look at any updated loglines from last week, or if I wasn't able to get to something. Let's, like Nacho I think has a new logline for us. We could look at that now. And anyone else? Do you want to start, Nacho?
Sure.
All right. Let's take a look at the new logline.
No, just a moment.
Thanks for sharing this. I'll just paste this in the doc. Okay, why don't you start by reading this for us?
An aging Vietnam vet delivery app driver goes to war with the drug dealing gang who murdered his emotional support hamster and left him for dead.
Wow. Okay, thank you for that. Emotional support hamster. That's so funny. So, an aging Vietnam vet delivery app driver. That's so many words to describe one person, I feel like. Goes to war with the drug dealing gang who murdered his emotion. Okay, so it's sort of just like a John Wick parody. Is that right?
Kind of, yeah. I think it's just something I found with the app seemed interesting. You know, like maybe they find out in the third act, like, oh, it's the app. You know, imagine like this, like if he's a Vietnam vet, he's got to be like 70 or 75 years old, I guess, right? Like he's pretty old. And so, you know, he's going through a tough time, and maybe, you know, something about the app would be like kind of funny, but also like, you know, picturing sort of like a, you know, almost like Kafkaesque, like all the requirements, you know, and the problems from the customers, all that kind of stuff, like in the first act, right?
Okay.
And then, so somehow maybe you know, I'm not quite sure, but I feel like that, like tying it to the app could be like an interesting take on this. So it's not just a straight, you know, parody of John Wick, but it is kind of like that, you know, and it's a, you know, dark comedy, but
I wonder how these things tie together. You mentioned the app as being sort of a point of interest for you, but how does the app play into the story?
Like these people are somehow involved with the people running the app in the third act.
Oh, with the developers of the app.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
like they are, you know, like it's like maybe it's money laundering or something, or I don't know. Just, you know, you can imagine like all these apps that do this kind of thing, and maybe they have like a pilot you know, it's like a new one, and it's in some city, and, you know, maybe there's some weird, you know, I don't know.
But
like,
is it a drug dealing gang, or is it a clique of evil tech bros though?
No, it's a gang. It's a criminal gang. But later in Act 3, we find out that they're connected with the developers of the app.
Oh, they're connected in some way. They aren't themselves the developers of the app.
Right, or maybe they are financing it or something. I don't know. Or maybe the owner is the owner of the app. I mean, so I'm not sure yet. It's still kind of like, you know,
okay. So that's almost like a late twist or a late development, if that's the case.
Exactly.
Okay, it's almost like The Beekeeper, if you saw that movie with Jason Statham.
I haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's really silly.
Okay.
But it on its surface it seems serious, but the story is like so ridiculous. Anyway, so I would like to see the connections clarified there, and it's hard to tell what's important here, because you mentioned 1, he's an aging Vietnam vet, 2, he's a delivery app driver, 3, we have this drug dealing gang, and then 4, I guess you're saying we have the faction of the developers themselves of the app, which, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe just cut the Vietnam vet, just say an aging delivery app driver.
Okay.
Goes to war with a criminal gang who murdered his, you know, just cut the drug deal.
Right. So in this case, the fact that he's a Vietnam vet is just why he can kill people, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I thought maybe it's helpful because we're showing like he has some kind of combat skill. Maybe it was like a Green Beret or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
But he's
a
like really old. I mean, he's like, it's like, Clint Eastwood age in whatever that what was that movie where
Gran
he's like,
Torino.
yeah, exactly. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So the basics. I mean, bad guys kill your blank animal. Now we got to get the bad guys. It does work. I mean, there's a reason. There's a couple movies like this, you could say. But I would look for a little bit more specificity if you can. I mean, the hamster thing is funny. It does sort of feel like we're doing Mad Libs, John Wick, a little bit, which I would want you to bring forward maybe what does your story offer that's unique? Is it a total, if it's a total comedy, then maybe you could play up the ridiculous elements even more. For instance, it's not a drug dealing gang necessarily. It's like, I don't know, the customer, like I was a delivery app driver for years, 2 years. And you get like annoying, pissed off customers all the time. And sometimes they don't tip you, or they get mad at you, or things like this. So if he's always delivering to the same, and sometimes you can end up delivering to the same people again and again, right? So it could be always that, he's got the hamster in the car with him for support, and then he messes up the order. We're going to teach you a lesson, old man. They stomp the hamster. And then we have like an even simpler setup, because in that case, it was just when a delivery driver has a disgruntled customer kill his pet, he, wages war against them, and it turns out they're connected or something like that.
Yeah, these are his customers.
They're the customers. Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
I missed that connection as well. So if you can bring that forward and amplify that element to make things feel more cohesive, right now it just feels like a bunch of separate or disparate elements that need to kind of be woven together and feel like this happens because of this. Like it's clear cause and effect that I would look for here. So in this case, we probably wouldn't describe them as a gang. We would describe them as his customers. So he goes to war with a blank customer that he pissed off in this way, right? I would ask, why did they kill the hamster to begin with? Do you know yet?
No.
No, that's okay.
They're
So
just,
if you can explain why in the logline, then all the better. Because with John Wick, it's pretty simple, right? They want to steal his car. And they go into his house, and the bad guy's kind of just sadistic and is like, when here's his dog, we're going to teach him a lesson, because he wouldn't give me the car earlier. He wouldn't sell it to me. The simpler, the better.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
What happens if you like flip it, where when the aging Vietnamese, right, he's the drug dealer, and it's the college students who kill his hamster?
Did you say aging Vietnamese? Do you mean
No, the Vietnam veteran, he's the drug dealer.
Oh,
right?
oh,
And
I
it's,
see,
like,
I see.
the college students that kill his hamster because they're like they're like the Stanford rapists, like very, like I don't know how to describe it, but they're like it's kind of more a class struggle kind of thing.
Right.
know?
Well, and in this
Class
case,
are rich,
you wouldn't even need to be a drug dealer you could just be a weed delivery driver in LA. That's just a job now, right? Like you could legally do
yeah,
that.
we delivery thing. Yeah.
Maybe that's a fun thing. We haven't seen that much of.
So it's different enough from the John Wick thing,
Yeah, that's true. Good suggestions. Thank you for that. Not sure you can consider if that would work with your movie or what you think, but anyway, let's answer any questions you had left.
Questions from me?
Yeah, from you.
No, I think that's helpful. It's a good start.
Cool. So yeah, just get more specific. Clarify why it's happening if you can. See if you can simplify and connect these elements so it feels not just like a bunch of disparate groups of people and disparate conflicts. It's all one conflict. It's all, cohesive. Thanks for sharing this. Does anyone else have a logline they want to look at for their feature? Either from last week or something brand new? I see one from Michelle. Do you want to look at yours? Okay, maybe she stepped away for now. That's all right. We will just continue with the slides for the moment. We're going to look at this question of how does your logline provide... Oops, that's too big. How does your logline provide story beats, and what do we even mean by this? So before I dive into this, maybe somebody who's taken my classes before can try to answer this question. Take a swing at this as best you can, how can a logline provide us with the framework of story beats for the movie?
The things in the logline imply, I guess they imply the whole story, you know? In terms of, they give you the character and a trait that's either going, that's going to make the, I guess, whatever the problem is hard to deal with, and that's going to create the drama for the story, you know? And then I guess the ending is going to be them either getting what they wanted from the log line or not getting what they wanted, you know? A lot's just there.
Yeah, thank you for that. So you're talking about how it sort of gives us data for each act, how the description of the character tells us how you're trying to establish them when the movie begins. So the first act, the first 20, 30 minutes at the most, we're going to be considering who is your main character at the start of their journey. And movies are so much about the journey, right? We talk so much about this story arc, this journey that your character goes from point A to point B. Or it could be the story of them failing to change from their current trajectory, or they double down on this awful person they always were, or something like this, but they at least have the opportunity to change in most cases. So yes, that first part, let's go back to our template. We have when or after inciting incident. Well, we know where that typically happens in 3-act structure, right? It's going to happen around the 10 to 15 page mark. So that tells us basically what needs, like you can put that on the board right away. There's like a plot event that is usually going to be the culmination of a scene. Usually inciting incident is not a scene in and of itself, but it's like the end point of a scene or the last moment of a scene. Sometimes it can be the start of a scene too if you play it right, but up to you. It's usually, remember, it's like a one clear thing happening, not a series of things. There's no multiple inciting incidents, because then if that's the case, we have to go back and just look at the first one and say, wasn't that the inciting incident? Because it precipitated the others. When or after inciting incident, an adjective protagonist must conflict before stakes. That tells us an adjective protagonist is who we are and who your character is in the first act. So let's look at just a quick example. We have, let's look at just a couple of our main story beats. And we're going to, you don't have to memorize these all right away if these are kind of new to you, but we have intro, catalyst, or inciting incident, same thing. We have what I call trying the locks, which is called refusal of the call in Hero's Journey, and debate in Save the Cat. It's called something different by everybody, basically. We have break into 2, your break into Act 2, premise scenes, midpoint, escalation, all is lost, pit of despair, break into 3, finale, epilogue. Those are the main beats of a 3-act story. So let's look at our logline format yet again, and we're going to see how you can directly map this, and I can do it with Nacho. Do I have your permission to use this one for the just demonstration purposes?
As long as you give me a percentage.
Okay, well, you can have 100%.
Get something out of this.
Yeah, it's all yours.
All good.
Okay, cool. I don't demand a commission. All right, let's move it down. Go ahead.
I don't know if you want to use the revised version, if that's simpler.
Oh, do you have a revised one in the chat? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then after this, I see a new one from someone in Afrid, and I can take a look at the lair after we go through these. Thank you for the update, Nacho. Let's look at the updated logline. All right, an aging delivery app driver goes to war with a shady customer who murdered his emotional support hamster, and left him for dead. So the only thing about this is the chronology is a little odd, because normally we don't want to be speaking in past tense in the script unless that happened before the movie started. So are you saying that the murder of the hamster happens before the movie? Or are you saying that happens...
That is the inciting incident.
That's the inciting incident. So put that first. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't go to war first. First the guy does the thing. You don't go through the door before opening the door. So when a shady customer murders his emotional support hamster, an aging delivery driver goes to war with his, I don't know, gang or whatever connections he has, or I don't know, is he in the mob or whatever it is. Okay, so let's consider that to be the general structure of this. You can arrange that on your own, but I'm just for the purposes of this demonstration going to assume that's the case. So first we have the main character, an aging delivery app driver. Okay, so we're going to just paste that down underneath your intro, because that's what you have to establish about your main character here. Now, since everybody is aging isn't always a helpful word for us, but here in this case, I think I get the idea. What you're saying is that he's sort of too old to be a delivery driver at this point. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, like it makes it harder for him, right?
Well, yeah, in that it's physically not the easiest thing to be running up and down people's stairs to their apartments and stuff like this, right? He's in his 70s. He doesn't ideally want to be doing this, I would think.
And he's not good with technology.
Not good with technology. Okay. So, I guess that he's going to have to figure out the app at least, but probably only that. He's got like the post-it note of instructions on his dashboard that's like, what do I do when the app crashes? So, okay, we've got an aging delivery app driver, so we're going to learn about his sort of normal life in the intro. Whether that's happy, whether that's sad, whether that's miserable, whether it's filled with violence and conflict, or whether he loves everything. Is he happy? We want to learn the stasis of your main character. So, we have the main character. That's going to be a big part of your Act 1. This is what we need to learn about your hero within a couple scenes. You have like maybe 4 or 5 scenes for your intro. Goes to war with... So let's go to the inciting incident. Murders his emotional support hamster, so we're going to move that down to catalyst. Murders present tense. Okay. And since we know in act structure, this is going to be about page 15 most of the time nowadays. If you want, you can always adjust these number benchmarks from the start. Maybe you're the kind of writer that's like, I love a long first act, though. Let's make a long first act. I like movies from the 60s and 70s that took a long time to set things up. So maybe in this case, you're like, okay, I love long first act. I'm going to go to 25 because I'm feeling crazy. But generally, oh wait, sorry, that would be way too far for a catalyst. Don't go above 20 for your catalyst. Like, all things considered, this is the cutoff point where people will start to say, you're making a mistake. Just trust me on this. So, normally, though, this is going to be around 10 to 15. Nowadays, in this sort of modern hooky spec style, it's going to err a little closer to 10. So it's up to you. I usually go 12 to 15. I'll just say 15 for now. So 10 to 15. These are pages, by the way. Wait, not 10 to 15. 1 to 15. There we go. So we've got our aging delivery app driver and his stasis. Maybe we sort of meet some of his regular customers. Does he have regulars? I mean, not every delivery app driver does, but in a small town you might, especially. We are learning what his life is like, what conflicts are challenging him, what is his stasis, what is his normal, is he happy or is he not? Then we get into your catalyst, which is the thing that shakes up his normal kind of life. This is probably the murder of the hamster, though depending on how the movie plays out. This might also be more like the break into 2, but here, just based on what you gave me, let's assume this is the catalyst. So that means that for your last couple scenes, make sure you're working up to catalyst. Working up to the catalyst. Meaning that you're sort of laying the path to it. Okay, so you are doing all these setups and foreshadowing to the catalyst, but then when this finally happens, this could be an accident, a coincidence, or something outside your character's control. Then we go into trying the locks, which means that your character is now asking the question, what do I do now? How do I continue to live in my stasis now that this thing has shaken things up? My old life. And this is almost always going to be something that requires a strong response from your hero. Catalyst requires a strong response. Even if that response is something like make a plan, right? Then what we're watching them do throughout trying the locks is going to boil down to if the catalyst provided an opportunity for them or something they wanted, if they weren't happy at the start, then they're going to start trying to pursue that opportunity through trying the locks. But all kinds of challenges can come up, like maybe they aren't ready. Maybe they don't have what it takes. Maybe it's a long and difficult journey. Maybe there's equipment or people you have to gather beforehand. Maybe you have to get the team together. Maybe you have to convince your spouse to be on board. Any number of things are going to prevent you from hitting that break into 2 moment yet. But essentially we are clarifying and amplifying the danger of the upcoming journey. If it's something that's so easy that your character would just go on the journey right away, it may not be a very strong movie premise in the first place. And if it's the kind of thing that anybody would do, then chances are it's not that big a choice, right? So we want to work up to the ultimate choice that your character makes, the one that pushes them into the journey of the movie. So in this case, that would be your character embarks on revenge quest. Usually in this kind of movie, it would be he goes after his first victim. So let's say he decides to take down the gang. And then very soon into premise scenes, you're going to have him hunting down that first victim and using the clues that you get from each subsequent target to find how to get to the next one. So we're going to look at what was the promise of the premise. Goes to war with the shady customer who murdered his support hamster. Okay, so I'm going to say goes to war with a shady customer. We're going to put that at the top of premise scenes, and then you're going to build out the premise scenes to revolve around that central idea as you identified and clarified it in your logline. So it's probably going to look like, planning. We have tracking. We have stakeout. We have the first attack, or the first attack, capture, or, let's actually say the customer runs. We have a chase scene. And then hero catches him, gets clue, or it's not the guy, it's not the real guy, it's his brother. It's his twin brother. He gets a clue in the right direction. But then he lets him go, so the brother calls the gang and informs them that someone is after them. They have to lock and load. So then they're getting ready. Then our next challenge is going to be even harder because they're waiting for him this time and they set a trap. Second target. See what I mean? So just fill out those action scenes with one thing leading to the next thing and making sure that especially in the world of action, that your victories and information that you gain in each scene is leading us directly to the next thing. So one opportunity leads to the next opportunity. One clue offers a pathway to the next clue. That will lead you up all the way up to your midpoint, which is going to be halfway through your total runtime, and in a 90-page, what this sounds like a 90-page movie to me, I'm going to say page 45. So we're directly halfway through. Notice something key about structure here. The main thing I want to point out is that we are alternating between sequences and single moments. So the intro is a sequence, a series or a group of scenes. Pages 1 to 15 is a lot of scenes. That's potentially 6 to 8 scenes. Then your catalyst is just one thing happening. It's just one thing. It's not a series of events, unfortunate or otherwise. Trying the locks is a short sequence. That's like 3 to 5 scenes. Your act break is one single thing happening. So we're always alternating. Sequence, moment, sequence, moment. So midpoint, we're back to moment. So it's the one clear tipping point in the middle of your story where often we achieve some major thrust of the early goal. Sometimes it seems like we just succeed. It's like a false success, perhaps. In any case, regardless, it's going to be a moment of rest that immediately leads us into a push into more difficulty and escalation. So this is often a sort of brief pause to assess progress, whether that seems like they're making progress or seems like they're not. But regardless, escalation is going to lead us right into things get way harder. The early opponents we defeated come back or call in backup. They start closing in. Things are getting dire. Relationships are suffering. When we hit the all is lost, we can check the logline again to see how we can use that to inform us what the worst possible thing that could happen in this world is. So often we will end, the last clause will be something like before or else, something like this. Here it's sort of implied that the gang will kill him if he doesn't kill them, I would think. So at least after he starts going after them, they're going to want revenge, so they're going to come for him, right? So that would mean that our all is lost moment is a moment where your character's defeat seems either like a foregone conclusion, like it's inevitable, or that they've already failed. So in this case, let's just say our hero gets knocked, his car gets knocked off a cliff and hits the bottom and sets on fire. How could he possibly escape now?
And it's a double bonus whatever. Like for those apps, like if there's a certain, sometimes it'll just say, oh, you get a bonus now if you deliver right now or something.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the rush or the multiplier.
yeah, something like that.
I feel like there's a great opportunity in your script, Nacho, and this is, I don't know how this fits in. I just want to mention it to you. Do you know what a Zorb is?
Zorb.
A Zorb.
With a Z?
Yeah. It's like a giant inflatable ball that you get in and roll around. Is there a finale for you where your character gets in one of these and rolls down a hill and kills one of the bad guys? I mean, that would just be cool.
Wow. Yeah, that seems cool.
That would be an absolutely unhinged set piece.
Think about that.
Just killing people with a Zorb. If you could get them to that point, think of maybe we're on they go to a mountain retreat to get away from the hero, a snowy mountain retreat, like a ski lodge, then he could be knocking them off cliffs and stuff in the Zorb. It would just be cool.
Just like his hamster.
Yeah, as an homage to the his fallen friend.
But he's got it rigged with, like, you know, concertina wire or something.
Oh yeah, maybe it's reinforced on the inside. He's probably got some guns in there too, I would imagine. Or maybe he can.
Yeah.
You see this little port that you open up to access it, I guess. You could use that for some fun stuff too. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Let me just put that on finale. I'm just gonna put Zorb attack. You don't have to use that, but I'm just gonna, because as you think of cool ideas, just drop them in the structure where you think they fit. Okay, so that is going to build out most of the major points for us. We basically know this is going to end in either the defeat or, you know, in an action story, especially action revenge style like story movie like this, it's going to result in your hero either killing the bad guys and winning, or making a final stand and heroically sacrificing themselves. It's usually one or the other of those things. Rarely are the villains just going to win in this type of story, unless it's based on a true story, in which case that often will be the case. Okay, because revenge in real life usually doesn't work out like you think it will. Remember that, kids. Go watch a Korean thriller if you're concerned, if you want to take revenge on someone. Okay, so let's sum up. What did we just go over? The logline being used to fill out the key beats of the story before we even know anything else about the movie. I'm going to just recap really quickly. An aging delivery driver that tells us your intro. So when or after inciting incident, that tells us the catalyst. So murdering the hamster goes down right here under catalyst. The must blank and blank, that tells us the sort of essential primary action that your character is undertaking. So he goes to war with them. We understand that means that he has to fight them to the death, essentially. That's going to go under your premise scenes. And you can then begin to extrapolate what would come from, or like what would, as a result of one scene, what would lead to the next scene, what would lead to the next one, what would lead to the next one. So you can start making these connections right away. And then last we have the all is lost moment. You have the stakes, which are life and death in this case. You didn't spell them out, like, or else they'll kill him, but we can assume that. So you can then fill that out under your all is lost moment. The darkest that things finally get with your hero. And from there, you can probably kind of figure out how things end. Does it end with your hero winning or losing at their goal? And from there, begin to just connect the dots and fill all these things out, and you have a great start to your plotting process. I'm just going to drop the numbers on the rest of those things for if anyone doesn't know. 15 to 25, break into 2 is going to be at 25. And all this is for like 90-minute movie structure, so you can stretch this out longer if your movie goes to like 100 plus. So premise scenes, 25 to 45. Midpoint on 45. Escalation, 45 to 60. All is lost on 60. Remember, sequence, moment. Sequence, moment. So the next sequence is Pit of Despair, 60 to 70. Break into 3 on 70, moment. Finale, sequence, 70 to 85. And then last we have epilogue, 85 to 90. You can do, in this kind of movie, you can do even less. In 90s versions of this, it would just be like, page 90 is the epilogue, essentially. I'll just give you 87 to 90, whatever. All right, so now we have like a skeleton for what the movie would look like. Does this kind of feel like what you were imagining, Nacho, or am I way off?
Yeah, no, it's super helpful.
Great. All right, so you don't have to use all that or any of that, but that is just how I sort of envision the structure panning out based on the logline, and that's how you can use the logline to start placing down some of your key structural tent poles right away. Any questions on this idea before we look at another logline? So we're going to look at the layer. Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, you're a little quiet, but I'll just turn up your volume here. All right, so why don't you read out what you have for us?
All right. A group of working class folks are invited to participate in a martial arts death match for a chance to become part of the upper class.
All right. Let me just move this down. Action drama. Comps. Are you looking for suggestions for comps right now?
Yeah, the only one I got is Squid Game.
Squid Game meets Bloodsport? Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll write that down. You don't have to use that, but...
Yeah.
Squid Game meets Bloodsport. Jean-Claude Van Damme. Okay, a group of working class folks are invited to participate in a martial arts death match for a chance to become part of the upper class. Okay, meaning the prize is a bunch of money, I'm guessing, is what that means, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So really that's like a byproduct of them winning. It's not like or are they invited to like a special club or something if they win, or is it just money?
At this point, it's just money.
Just money. Okay. So in that case, it might be more helpful for you to specify how much money it is. So for a $100 million prize or something like that. And we understand that as a result of getting that money, you would be part of the upper class, because in America, at least, money is class. A group of working class folks. Okay, I like the basics. Go ahead.
Oh, I was agreeing with you.
Okay, I'll continue then. So, I think we need more clarity on a central protagonist. So do you have a good idea who the hero is? It's okay if you're not sure yet.
No.
Okay, sounds good. So what you'll want to do is figure out who's the right person for the story. And you're going to have to do some just guessing or some brainstorming as to, first of all, who would survive this kind of thing. Very few people would be able to win a martial arts tournament to the death against lots of other, the world's top murderers, right? So your character has to be competent to begin with. Oh, I'm hearing some echo from my mic. I think it's through your mic. Maybe it's because your speaker's volume is a little too loud. So the next thing, once we have that sense of who your main character is in terms of who would win, I would ask the additional question: who would be interesting to watch, right? Who would be an interesting candidate for this kind of thing? Is it someone with a unique limitation or a unique tactic? Does he use some forbidden style that no one's ever seen before? Is he someone that was a previous winner of this same game, or maybe somebody that lost a previous game like this? Does he have some relationship to someone else in the tournament? Is he trying to win for a good reason? Does he need the money to do something specific? So I would just try to zero in on a more interesting central focal point for the story, which is always the protagonist.
I have no motivation for a protagonist right now.
That's okay. So just give it this upcoming week, you can do some brainstorming on that. It would have to fulfill both of those criteria. Somebody who would be able to win this sort of thing, or at least get pretty far. And then on top of that, who would be unique and interesting to watch do this? Somebody who's doing it for some reason that we want to root for is often what movies like this do. In Squid Game, why is the main character doing it? To get money to help his sick mom. Like, who would root against that? You'd be a psychopath to root against that. So having that strong sense of rooting interest can often be that key thing that makes us invest in your hero's journey. It's not the only thing. You can pick something else. Maybe he has a central relationship that can really galvanize the story. So I would recommend that as well.
All right.
And similarly in Squid Game, there is a really strong central relationship, which Sangwoo is the childhood best friend of our main character. So they have a really strong relationship, and it ends up they're the final sort of duo that are left at the end, right? So it is very clear why this is the hero and why this is the villain. It all adds up. So that clarity of focus on your protagonist will get you a little bit more juice for this logline and allow you to establish a stronger audience interest in what's going on here. I would also maybe just add one more suggestion, this idea of irony. We are really drawn to this cleverness of irony, or like if an idea has some sort of ironic element on its very face. So, for instance, the person who is least likely to succeed is the one that must do this, for instance. The smallest person in the world has to make the biggest possible journey. That's just one example of how we might imagine this sort of irony. Or it could be something like two enemies have to work together. So maybe he has to enter a duo-style bracket with somebody that he hates, or his old rival, or his old mentor, or a love interest that broke up with him, or something like that. That can add a lot of irony and drama to the story, too. So I would just think of how can you amp up the premise in terms of we know what's going to happen in the movie, and you're fulfilling the genre promises for sure. It's clear how that will be the case. But now we're looking for where's the specificity and concreteness of character journey. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, any questions?
No.
Great. Thank you for sharing this.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have a logline they want to look at today?
I think Mario has a revised logline.
Okay, do you want to share?
Okay.
Sounds
All right.
good. Let me grab it.
The revised logline is trapped inside a magically hidden dungeon located under Baxter Park. An ambitious graduate student and his friends must prove that they are not possessed by a vengeful spirit of an ancient and powerful necromancer, or else the dean, his father, will entomb them forever.
Okay, let me make sure I'm understanding this. This is a lot of information. So, first of all, is Baxter Park a real place?
It's a park in New York.
Okay, does it matter that they're in New York for the purposes of the story, or could they be anywhere?
I just wanted to make sure that people know that it's modern.
But does everyone know about? Am I the only one who's never heard of Baxter Park? Wouldn't you just say underneath New York?
Depends on the how popular Teenage Mutant series is.
Oh, is that a key location in that series? I was
Yeah,
not aware of that.
it's a key location.
Okay.
I have to look at it. I have to look at. So you can put that as a bracket, and I have to look at what's popular, and then pick a park. I can just do Central Park, actually. Let's do Central Park.
Yeah, that would be
Everybody
a
knows
lot
Central
more
Park.
recognizable.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone would know what you meant by that. So
I don't really care about certain things. I just I just needed to notify the person where it is in
Right.
modern day.
Right. Okay. So Central Park would be more recognizable than Baxter Park. I guarantee. Okay. Trapped inside a magically hidden dungeon located under Central Park. If it's under it, does it even need to be magically hidden? Oh, I guess you're saying that's why nobody's discovered it over the years. An ambitious graduate student and his friends must prove that they are not possessed. Prove that they are not possessed. Already, proving a negative is really difficult and hard to wrap your head around for the purposes of a logline. By a vengeful spirit of an ancient and powerful necromancer. Okay, so a ghost necromancer, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Or else the dean, whose father? The necromancer's father? The student's father?
The hero's father.
The hero's father. Okay, will entomb them, meaning the students, forever, right?
Yep.
Okay, so there's a couple different characters mentioned here that make the agreement of your pronoun just hard to track. You mention two guys and then you say his father, but it could easily refer to either of them. He will entomb them in the dungeon if he thinks they are all possessed by the necromancer ghost, then he will trap them there. Is that right?
Yes.
And is it that only one of them is possessed, or are they all suspected of being simultaneously possessed somehow?
Well, the conceit is that only one of them is possessed.
Oh, okay. So it is like he would seal them under if they couldn't figure it out because
Yes,
it's
if they
more
can't
dangerous
figure it
to.
out.
Okay, got it. So to begin with, must prove that they are not possessed is very hard to imagine what that looks like. So I would consider if you can frame that in an active way rather than a negative right off the bat. So they must discover the culprit, right? Isn't that kind of what they're doing? They're trying to discover who among them is the necromancer.
Sure, yeah.
They're trying to unmask the necromancer or the possessed person among them, right?
Yeah, must unmask the possessed. Must unmask one of them.
Something like that. I'm not sure the exact phrasing. You can figure it out after this, but I would just suggest it's like when think of an Agatha Christie story like And Then They Were None. They're not trying to prove they're not the killer. They're trying to find who is the killer.
Yeah.
Insisting that you're not the killer is just a function of finding the killer. Okay, so they must discover who among them is the ghost necromancer, or else they will be trapped there forever. Okay, I got that. So I would just try to reduce words, simplify just a little bit in the way I just described, and clarify your pronoun agreement so we know whose father is threatening to do this and why. And when you say graduate student, you mean they're students of a New York college?
So yeah, there's a student of a kind of course. Yeah, like PhD student.
I just wanted to clarify, you don't mean they're like magic school students. You mean they're students of a mundane school.
I've decided to make it a mundane school for ease of writing.
Oh, okay, great. Just making sure I understood. So a graduate student and his friends must discover the culprit before the father entombs them forever. Wow, okay. So the dad already knows about the necromancer and things like this. And is this all of them sort of encountering the supernatural for the first time?
So, actually, I actually lied, right? I actually want them to be a magical school student, and inciting incident, not the inciting, the lead up to it is that they were tasked to reseal a minor demon, and then all of a sudden, like they accidentally opened the wrong kind of urn, and then the necromancer comes out and possesses one of them.
Okay. So in that case, you might just want to indicate that they aren't just regular students, they're like wizard students. They're like wizards in training, is that right?
Yeah. So I just didn't want to add 3 adjectives to the protag, you know? It
Right.
got too long, and I felt instinctually that was wrong.
An ambitious apprentice, isn't that what they are? Like sort of apprentices or something like that?
Yeah, let's see. Graduate. Can I say grad? I'm going to do ambitious graduate sorcerer.
Graduate sorcerer. I don't know what that is, but I mean, you could, I guess. I think that might confuse the reader, but
Yeah, me too.
we can find out.
Yeah, I'll think about it. I need 2 or 3 words that mean what I mean, but I can't really think of it right now.
That's okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't.
keep going.
The good thing about these is that you never have to fix it right now. I'm not asking you to make all the changes. Just try to like note down the things that you'd want to change, and you can figure it out in your own time whenever you can.
Oh, I got it. And his fellow sorcerers.
There you go.
Got it.
Great. Okay, I think I'm starting to understand. But the one thing is, I would maybe ask: is the inciting incident them getting trapped here, or is it one of them getting possessed?
The inciting incident is when they get trapped inside the dungeon because one of them is possessed.
So when is the possession happening? Like before the movie started?
No, this is after after the minor event of resealing a magic demon, and it goes wrong. You know.
Okay. So
It
you're saying
starts off like Reservoir Dogs. They're like at a diner talking about, oh, we're gonna reseal a minor demon, and they're like kind of frenemies, right? Rivals and stuff, and
Okay.
then they go off, and then it's exactly like Reservoir Dogs.
okay, so it's non-chronological.
magic. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Well, that's all the notes I'll give for now. Then you can make those last adjustments and figure out some new wordings on your own time soon. Hope that's given you some good things to think about.
It's good. It's good. It's about. I think most of your advice is about like have your idea, but put it into a trash compactor.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Squash it down to the smallest possible box. Thank you for sharing this.
Cool.
Are there more loglines? Does anyone else? Looks like Vader perhaps has one. Feel free to share. While we are waiting, I'm just going to take a quick look ahead at some other slides. And this is just, I want to share this slideshow, or recommend that you watch this video back afterwards, because this will just kind of, oh yeah, I probably should have gone over this while I was doing the breakdown, but this is just a visual explanation of how you can find those different elements of your logline and map them to parts of your story structure so you can start filling in the scene cards right away. So first 10 pages, we're learning who the hero is. catalyst or inciting incident. Between 10 and 15 is where we're going to watch some moment unfold that sets the events of the movie in motion, forces your characters out of their stasis and comfort zone, and shakes up their worlds. Triangle Locks is going to build us up to that act break and emphasize the difficulty of the journey and show your characters perhaps taking the first few steps on that journey. The break into 2 is where your characters are going to, take their first step through that threshold, engage in the central conflict as you presented it in the logline, and that starts our second act. Second act is what we call second act the movie. Second act is the movie, and that's where you're going to be executing the promises that you made, making sure that you're making good on whatever you expressed as the central conflict in your logline. So your character must do blank. That's where we're going to see blank. Your midpoint is going to, here we are, raise the stakes, usually introduce some new piece of information or set you off on some new direction. Escalation is where the fun is over, the consequences of the midpoint and the premise scenes begin to manifest, and the antagonists begin to tighten their grip and call in reinforcements. All is lost is where the worst possible outcome your protagonist could possibly imagine happens. Usually they fail at their goal, or it seems inevitable that they will fail. Followed by the pit of despair, where we ask the question, how can they possibly move on? How can they go on from there? And the answer to that question, how can they go on, is the break into 3. This is often the moment where your character remembers or recontextualizes who they are and comes to some new conclusion about who I have to be. What is the perfect version of myself that I must become in order to succeed? They're going to dig down deep and discover what tools they need to become the final synthesized version of that character in the finale. Now that they're armed with those new tools and discoveries, they will synthesize what they always knew with what they learned along the way. We're going to move into your final battle. They either win or they lose, and then we wrap things up in the epilogue. Okay, so let's take a look and see if we have a logline from Vader to look at. Thank you for this. And are you able to unmute and speak aloud and answer questions?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me? All right, all right. All right, all right. I have not actually thought of a title yet, but I will say the genre is definitely a sort of thriller, like a dystopian thriller, if that is a genre, I guess.
Yeah,
that
it's
is
like
a
a
appropriate
subgenre.
mismatch.
Okay. So, untitled,
And like I
dystopian.
said, this is yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Untitled, dystopian. All right. Why don't you start by reading the logline for us out loud?
All right. So just to preface, this is the same log line that I described last time I was here, but it's updated, right? It's expanded.
Great. Go for
So, after a devastating attack on his outpost exposes him to the outside world for the first time in decades, the scientist who invented the zombie virus must be escorted to a secret location to concoct a cure before the final remnants of humanity are ravaged by an army of zombies converging on their city.
it. Nice. All right. Good job with this. You've expanded the concept from
Thank you.
last week. Let me read it back and just make sure everything's working. So, after a devastating attack on his outpost exposes him to the outside world for the first time in decades. So, is he living in isolation on his own?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so he's off the grid in a bunker. The scientist who invented the zombie virus must be escorted. So that raises the question, by whom?
Right, right.
So does he want to go?
By whom? Initially, he does not want to go. That was kind of the idea that I got. Initially, he's kind of forced into this journey, right?
Okay. So is this like some people show up and they're like, hey, you're that guy, now we're going to make you pay, or we're going to make you redeem yourself sort of thing?
Well, it's more like this is the guy, and he's kind of the only person left who can do this, the thing that we want, right, to make the cure.
Oh, wait, so when you say the attack on the outpost, is that by the people who then end up taking him?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's try to clarify the cause and effect there. So after a blank militia group, or whatever it is, whoever they are, right, after this group attacks his outpost, or maybe started off something like, kidnapped by a group of ragtag survivors, or stolen from his bunker by a group of ragtag survivors. The scientist who invented the zombie virus must blank and blank. So we'd ask the question, what is he trying to do? So if they're trying to take him to the secret location to make the cure, what does he want? Why hasn't he made the cure so far?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I did not hear that. You cut out, I think.
Okay,
Sorry,
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so if the mercenaries or the militia or whoever it is are trying to take him to make the cure, what does the hero want? And if it's to make the cure himself, why hasn't he done it up until now?
That is a good question. I have been like kind of wrapping it around in my head about what that should be.
Mhm.
I do have an idea that he's kind of just been wanting to die alone because he thinks that's what he deserves at this point, right? Because like I said in the last time that I presented this premise, he's kind of like maybe he feels a lot of guilt, right, over the fact that he kind of accidentally invented the zombie virus, right?
Okay, so could it be that maybe he would have made the cure or wanted to make the cure for a long time, but there's no way he could have fought his way into where the secret location is? Or
Yes, exactly.
okay, he didn't have the firepower.
Yeah, he didn't have the resources, let's say, yeah.
Cool. Okay, this is good. I like this. So then when these mercenaries show up, it almost sounds like he needs their help. In that case, it would almost be better if it was driven by him, right? So it could be something like they attack his compound, they drag him out, they're about to loot the place. They realize who he is, and he's like, hey, wait, you guys might be our only hope of getting to this actual location. And they might be like, dude, you're crazy. Nobody can do that. Like, it's way too well defended. And you might have to sort of enlist or convince them to do that. And that would be keeping your protagonist driving the story a little bit more. It's up to you how you want to play it, though. Like, you don't have to have the answers now as well, but just think about that. Like, the question of what is he really trying to do? And if he's trying to make this cure, can he be the one driving the story more? If that's the case, then these mercenaries or these soldiers that he brings with him, you probably want to have some resistance, because if it seems like such a good idea that of course we should do it, then it's not going to be that difficult of a journey, right? It would have to be the sort of situation where the place that you would go, like the lab, is so well defended, either by humans, or it could just be in a really infected part of the city, that it feels like there's no way we could do that. Nobody's strong enough, nobody has enough guns, like, it's a suicide mission.
Yeah.
So, think about that.
I like that a lot, yeah.
That could really work. And then you have your main character in the driver's seat of the narrative. He's able to sort of position himself as the expert here, saying, like, this,
very
this is
active
humanity's
protagonist.
lifestyle. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, yes. I said a very active protagonist, yes.
So if you can keep him in charge as much as possible, then have him be the one that's motivating the story, making the plans, and putting those plans in action. Okay, but the rest, it's all pretty solid. I mean, if you can come up with good reasons behind that, maybe an interesting setting we haven't exactly seen before, some city that we haven't seen devastated, like probably not New York or LA would be nice.
Yeah.
Not Vegas. But pick what you want. I mean, there's lots of cities we've never seen a zombie story take place in.
Yeah.
And especially if it's some remote lab, it might be way off the grid in the first place, right? We might be in Alaska or something.
Right.
So give that some thought, see if you can clarify your main character's goal, and also frame the plot in terms of the logline in just a more active way. So it's not just an attack. When these people attack, or when these people force him out of his hiding, or something like this, just be clear as to who the other characters are.
All right.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So, when you say that I should have it be a more active, like, logline, let's say, in the first part, I feel like that would be a bit too much to fit into the logline, right?
I don't think so.
Or I'm thinking of how to like condense the information into the first part of the logline, without making it 2 sentences, right? That's where the question stands.
Okay, so I'm just going to have to, like, guess some things about your story in order to do this, but I'll give it a shot. I'm just going to make it up, and it's okay if it's totally wrong, but I'll just say something like, religious extremist militia raids his compound, or something. You could start it that way, right?
Okay.
Or could be, let's assess and examine and figure out how we can make this one single sentence. So what happens is, they raid his compound, they expose him to the outside world for the first time in decades. That seems a little less relevant. That you may not need that. That's kind of just like a detail rather than a plot necessity.
Right.
That's just kind of like informative. The scientist who invented the virus must be escorted. So we'd ask the question, why must he be? Is to a secret location to, let's say, a secret lab or something like this, just because I think that's where you'd make a cure, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Before the final remnants of humanity are ravaged by an army of zombies. So let me clarify something. Are all of humans living in just one city now?
Yes, as far as they know. As far as they know.
Okay. You may not
It's
need
kind of like how
that.
in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, right? Sorry if you've seen that movie. It's kind of like how, as far as they know in the story, that's kind of where like a lot of the last humans are, right, in that one city.
I see. Okay. So you may not need that, is all I would suggest, just because you have plenty of urgency as it is. The urgency being, if you're the only guy in the world who can make this cure, then when you die and you're getting up there, we won't be able to ever cure it anymore, right? So therefore, we have to take this opportunity this is our one chance to make the cure. That already has a lot of urgency. I like the fact that you have given a clear benchmark to it. I would just suggest maybe you don't need it. You have the right instinct, though. That is definitely the right idea most of the time. But let's just see if we need it.
All right.
Okay, so let's start with something like... And if you give me just a moment, I'm going to maybe not talk for a second just as I'm figuring out how to write it. So
Don't worry about it, yeah.
Okay, the silence you hear is not me having left the computer or whatever. So kidnapped by... Give me just 1 second to work with it.
All right.
Okay, so something like this, but we just want to add in the idea that this is like their last chance to do it. So he has to like leap on this opportunity. So it's like a rare chance for him to maybe finally redeem himself and make a difference. So 20 years into the apocalypse, the scientist who created so let's say guilt-ridden, burdened by guilt, the scientist who created the virus must enlist the aid of a religious extremist militia to escort him to the secret lab. So maybe we'll say that sort of time frame. I wonder, must enlist the aid. So why must he would be the question. Why now? So he can make the cure. So I may not have the answer to that question exactly right now, but if you can just answer that, why now? Then you'll be in good shape, and I think that kind of condenses the sentence down and simplifies it a bit. So if you can, I'm going to paste that into the chat, and you can work with that, and maybe by the end of class, if we have time, I'll take another look at it, but see if you can just work with this and fill out that question. And you're getting pretty close. Yeah. Does that work for you? Does that make sense? Am I along the right lines with this? Who was I working with? Vader? Okay, he says, all right, great. So, keep going with that. Thank you for sharing this. So, we are doing loglines today. We're doing week 1 feature bootcamp stuff. NZ Lord from Kick says, hi. Hi, NZ Lord. Does that mean you're the Lord of New Zealand, perhaps? Or does it stand for something else, maybe? We don't know. We have plenty of slide type material to look at, such as what are readers really looking for in loglines, and just more on kind of, beating the topic of loglines to absolute death. Looking for this size of the story. It's not too big, it's not too small. Stakes are primal, life and death, love, friendship, revenge, things like this. Something that as many people as possible would be able to understand, even if we don't support or relate to that specific thing. We've never been an evil king, or we've never been a sorcerer. But we can understand we should be able to understand why your characters are doing what they're doing. Okay, does anyone else have a logline they wanted to go over? Witemi or Vitemi, do you have something you want to share? Feel free to post.
Yeah, it's a little bit up, but I'll copy and paste it.
Yeah, thank you. Or can you tag me in it? That would make it easy to see.
Yeah. Here you go.
All right.
All right. Do you want me to read this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it is Playing with Fire. Comp says, "Catch me if you can," and it's a fish out of water crime story. After defrauding a hiring agent for a sketchy sales manager position, a pathological liar navigates an Idaho drug trafficking ring before the law catches her, or worse.
Okay. Thanks for this. Catch me if you can. Playing with Fire. Okay. Oh, here it is. Genre, fish out of water. So, wait, crime. Crime, I guess, is the thriller. Fish out of water is like an archetype of story.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so after defrauding a hiring agent for a sketchy sales manager position, a pathological liar navigates an Idaho drug trafficking ring before the law catches her, or worse. I'm not sure I totally understand. When you say defrauding a hiring agent, do you mean like conning someone?
Yes.
Okay, so she cons somebody out of money. The hiring agent works for a sales manager position for what company?
Oh, I need to put the company?
Well, I'm just trying to clarify why you said what the person's job was.
Oh, no. So the idea is that she is trying to lie to get a better job that she's not qualified for. And she finds a job posting for a sketchy sales manager position and tries to lie her way into it.
Okay, and how does that lead her into the drug world?
She finds out that the sales management position that she lied herself into is actually for a drug dealing position.
Oh, wait, so your catalyst is more like when she accidentally gets a job as a drug dealer.
Yes.
Okay.
Accidentally. But she lied her way to get this accidental position.
Oh, okay. So that's a bit of a complicated idea, but I think that's more the focus of it. The fact that she defrauded a hiring agent is like the catalyst for your catalyst. That's like laying the groundwork for your catalyst to make sense. But it's not actually clarifying what that key event is. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So the real catalyst is she accidentally gets this job as a drug dealer. It's like a crazy situation. A pathological liar, I like that description of the character, navigates an Ohio trafficking drug ring. What does it mean to navigate a drug ring, and what would you say is the sort of finish line of her goal?
The finish line is that she wants to get out before she's sold into sex trafficking.
Whoa. Okay. So, sold by whom?
By the hiring manager that she lied to.
Oh, by her own employers. So the
Yes.
main risk here is that the people I'm working for are going to kidnap me.
Yeah, because she screws up royally. It's a short film that I wrote in college that I am adapting into a feature.
Okay, got it. So navigating is not a concrete goal. Getting out of the drug ring is a concrete goal. So I would reframe it around that idea. She must find a way to leave this group that she's accidentally joined before they sell her into trafficking, it sounds like. So I guess what you're saying is she has to kind of build trust with them and like make them like her enough to not do it right away. Is that right? And like prove that she's a good drug dealer, and if she falls too far behind or makes too many mistakes, then they're gonna, drop the axe because they realize you're not supposed to be here.
Correct, yes.
Got it. Okay, so is it that if they discover her true identity, she'll be killed or something?
Not killed, but I'm still working on the fine tuning, but yes.
Got it. Okay. So they think she's someone else, or that at least she has different qualifications than she really has, I would think.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm starting to understand now that I've asked a few more questions, but I would so start to rethink it along those lines. When she somehow falls into this job as this drug dealer, you might have to, when she lies on a resume and accidentally gets a job as a drug dealer, you might say something like that. Although most drug dealers don't hire via resumes, so it's a little hard to understand. But if you can find a way to just clearly express that idea. A pathological liar must find a way out of the organization before her new employers discover who she is and kill her, essentially. Or not kill her, but, do something terrible to her.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that add up?
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. It simplifies the story that I'm writing.
Okay, great. So I know I wasn't marking it up as I was talking, but I hope that gives you enough just to make those adjustments on your own. I think it sounds interesting. I really. It reminds me a little bit of. Did you see Emily the Criminal?
I did not.
It's quite good. It's with Aubrey Plaza, and it's not like she accidentally falls into scamming or robbing people, but it's like a very sketchy sort of job where it's like they advertise on Craigslist and stuff like that. And at the start, they meet on like a bunch of folding chairs in like a basement somewhere, and they're like, all right, we're going to be doing illegal stuff. If you don't like that, you can go right now. We're not going to stop you, but just so you know, this is not technically legal. And they're all very above board about it, which is kind of a fun like approach.
Yeah.
Anyway, check that movie out because it kind of touches on some similar ideas. Not that it's a ripoff at all, but it's not that the story is not similar. But just it's in a world of average person falls into doing crime and ends up, in this case she kind of likes it, but in your movie it sounds like she hates it and wants to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you. Hope that's helpful. Nacho says assistant cocaine sales manager. Yeah, or assistant to the cocaine sales manager, perhaps. All right. Yeah, isn't drug dealing technically retail? I mean, it's if you have a storefront. I guess even if not. Could just be what's it called when you don't have a physical brick and mortar, but you actually ship stuff out? A ghost kitchen, but for drugs. Okay. Anyone else have a logline or premise for a movie you want to share or brainstorm? I'd always rather spend the time working one-on-one with you guys and hearing your awesome ideas rather than going through a million lecture slides that we've seen before. So let's ask who else has an idea they want to work on. Or any questions based on what we've talked about so far? God, these are old. The most recent feature on here that I've written was from 2020. Gotta update that one. Okay, so we have half an hour left. I mean, this is open lab if you guys want to ask about feature writing or your personal projects or get plot problems solved or brainstorm your premise and make sure that everything's clicking. So if you worked on a version of a logline earlier, you can post the updated version for additional feedback. You could ask other questions or maybe explore other ideas. I just want to make sure you know that this half hour is like wide open if you want to do that. I always try to, in the early weeks, just leave time to work with everyone. Make sure that you know what you're doing. Make sure that you're on the right track. Things like this. Okay, well, I'll let you know for next time. The goal is to finalize your logline. So this week, you can use the feedback you've gotten today or the feedback you get in the next half hour if you want, and you can revise what you have. The one single sentence, try to keep it to about 35 words or less if you can. I have made a custom GPT that's exactly for this idea. I guess I'm not logged in on Firefox, but I've made a AI app called Scriptcamp Logline Helper, which uses all my criteria, all of my programming, and we actually did a beta test here on the server a while ago. It works quite well, and you can even see the results from it in a thread called, where is it? AI Logline Helper Logline Tool Beta. I think that's it. So if you want to see what some results have looked like in the past before, you can do that. Otherwise, it's free to use, and it is available for everyone. So just search the custom GPT store for Scriptcamp Logline Helper. I made it myself. It took a long time. It's not just like, it's just ChatGPT. There's a lot of programming that goes into it, a lot of categories and types of evaluations that it runs. So it's actually one of the more complicated writing apps out there. Check it out. So in any case, you can use that if you want. It's not going to always give you a perfect result, and you have to still work with it on your own and continue to shape and refine what it gives you. It's not going to do all the work for you. But in any case, you can this week finalize that logline as best you can and start to use these tools we talked about today in order to break that logline into story beats using these guidelines that we talked about. How you can start with a strong core, that logline that tells us when inciting incident, an adjective protagonist must conflict before stakes. And since you now know, and we've now just clarified, Exactly where each of those moments will fall in a 90-page story structure. You can adjust it on your own, but at least for 90 pages, you know where that would be. You can start to fill out your story beats right now. Even this week, you can start to fill out your story beats because a logline will always yield or offer. It's something like 6 or 7 of your key story beats. At least 5. So keep on going with that. And also, you've got to start reading. If you've not already been reading scripts, there's no way around this one. You got to be reading 3 scripts a week, in my recommendation. I will say the students in Script Camp and Word Camp who read the most scripts, with no exception, are the closest to writing at a professional level. There's no coincidence there. It's not just random that it happens to be that the people that are reading a lot happen to be writing the best or writing the most. That is a direct result. You need to be reading to be able to write at a professional level. There's no way around it. So every class I will ask this question: what have you read this week? If you don't finish the script or you just read most of it or something like that, it's fine. It's not a test. It's not school. But we're asking this question to keep you actively reading and to make sure that you're paying attention, writing down questions you have, things you like, things you notice, things you learn, and basics like this. So if you type !blacklist into any channel on Script Camp, then you will get access to, or you can request access to our Blacklist folders, which include a lot of scripts to check out. And we are also sister servers or partners with Script Hive, which has a massive directory of scripts for you to check out as well. So try search Script Hive on Discord, and you can access their huge, huge folder of thousands of scripts. But I recommend picking recent ones that are written on spec, because that's what we ourselves are usually writing. You can get some good info by reading older scripts or shooting scripts, but the most relevant documents for you are recent specs. So try to read at least one of those a week minimum. Okay, I see a question in the chat, so I'll take it here. Oh, it's gone. No, here it is. All right. I have a question. I understand I'm a bit ironic in writing a crime story, considering I have a distaste for strong language in film. How might I balance this to keep how I prefer to write dialogue versus writing what is usually accepted in crime stories? Wow, what a unique question. We've never gotten that question before. Well, there's a couple ways you could approach it. One, if you're just like, I don't like swearing and I just don't want to have it in the movie and I don't feel like having some clear rationale for it, you can just write like a PG-13 style movie where people for some reason don't really swear. But I would just ask the question, are you sure that doesn't take us out of the immersion of the story? In desperate situations, especially life and death, people swear a lot. It's just true. In crime, the world of crime, you know, whether it's organized crime or disorganized crime, not only are we in high-stakes situations, but again, people swear a lot. It might strike the audience as a little odd if they keep it very clean, but then again, there's like this, I guess maybe this was just a bigger thing in the past, just the sort of like PG-13 crime movie does exist. If it's written well enough, we won't notice. That said, you might want to just consider, I don't know, is your main character Mormon? Like, you might have some rationale or some specific reason why exactly the character doesn't swear or doesn't like it or doesn't listen to it, or I don't know, they hate it so much that whenever somebody swears in the movie, they just mentally block it out or something. You could have some rationale like that. So ultimately, you kind of have two choices. One, just roll with it and just ignore it and just write the dialogue you want and don't draw any attention to it, and if it's good enough, no one will care. Or B, you have some in-universe explanation for it and kind of play it into the story, factor it in. Everyone's like, oh, you're the Mormon, you're the teetotaler, you know, you're the weirdo who doesn't like it when I say, and then you cut away to the next scene. And then you kind of like organize the movie around that or use it as a running joke, or I don't know how you'd want to use it, but as far as I can tell, those are the two major options.
I had another suggestion about the idea that the boss wants to be seen as almost upper class, and so they've forbidden all of their minions for swearing because they feel like it makes them all lesser. If that makes sense. That's
a pretty fun workaround. I mean, that won't always work with every story, but the idea that they have banned it in their organization because they see it as classless and they want to be classy, it does work. That's a good suggestion. Go ahead.
Yeah, you could have a moment where they say like not a bad word, but like almost a bad word, and the boss just shoots them, and it's like, what have I said?
Who said heck?
Yeah.
You can also use rude language without having to use swear words.
I like that idea. That's a good one. Thank you, Discord.
No problem.
That's true. Yeah, you could always. People can be very rude without swearing as well. So that's always just something you can, if you want to just find that balance where it feels realistic, but you write the story you want in the way that you want. That's always an option. The only time this has really stood out to me was watching Lost, because that was a network TV show, and even as a kid, maybe just I was a teenager who was starting to watch a lot more R-rated movies in 2004. But it really stood out to me. I was like, isn't this a life and death situation? Why is everyone being so squeaky clean polite with their, they're like, damn, at the absolute worst. And that's just network TV. I mean, there's no way around that. You should read the scripts for Lost. They've got plenty of swearing in the action lines. Okay. You know what another solution might be if the story's not set. This is dumb. This is maybe jumping too high to get over a small hurdle, but it's set in a different country or culture where you you're sort of translating the language, and therefore you get to use the kind of local vulgar terms. But then again, ignore that. That might be going way too far. All right, let's reopen the floor to questions. That was a great question. Topics related to your feature, or topics in the craft of feature writing, or career of feature writing. Maybe you want to know about the career, or anything you're working on.
So, is there any, if you want to get into screenwriting, and I don't know, if you're, because I being in Britain, it's not likely I'd be able to be anywhere near Hollywood, but of course we have studios over here.
Mm-hmm.
Would hanging around there and going to those places be a good idea? Would you be able to translate that, what you did with over here? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm mostly working with London studios now. So
Okay.
you're in a better position than we are at the moment. So yeah, definitely. Hollywood is in a bad spot. London is doing pretty well for movies. So absolutely. Good.
Excellent.
Yes.
So I'm just saying excellent.
The Mr. Burns. Yes, excellent. So yeah, London's doing better than us. The rest of the world is doing better than Hollywood at the moment. That might change in the next year, but for right now, you're in a good spot. So what I would say is, 100% the path I took translates there, because I'm on that path now, kind of. But contests, things like Nickel, will still hold weight there. You also have some UK-specific fellowships and programs that you should look into. For instance, what's it called? I think Channel 4 has one. I think there is one for BBC. Look into writers' fellowships and mentorship programs and things like that. I forget the exact names. Maybe somebody can look some of them up for us, and post them in the chat. But the sort of contest or fellowship pipeline, it's always there, and stuff that counts really big in America will also count there, more so than the reverse. Whereas if you placed well in a British contest in Hollywood, they usually don't care. In London, if you placed really high in a Hollywood contest, they usually will care. So still enter Nickel, Cinestory, maybe Big Break. I have to vouch for Launchpad just because Launchpad kind of started my career, so I will say Launchpad. You're welcome, guys. And besides that, I think that kind of maxes out the contests that really matter that much. I would not be entering C-list contests. I would be applying to all those programs as you can. I would be writing movies and contacting local filmmakers and filmmaking groups and things like this. So you asked hanging around or going to the studios. That won't really help you as much as look at social media groups of local filmmakers who meet up at places nearby. Especially, I will say, if you are you near London itself, or are you a little farther out?
I'm close enough, I'd say.
Close enough. Okay, so you could get there at least.
Yeah.
So that's probably where most of this is going to be centered. There's going to be smaller local groups outside of London, but that's going to be the biggest hub. So chances are, look at Meetup and Facebook and other Discord even for London-based screenwriting and filmmakers, and also in the world of plays, stand-up, and web series and things like this. Other alternative but linked groups. And there's going to be people in those groups that want to do the same sort of stuff that you want to do, and that you should start forming a network of peers from. So start meeting those people, go into their meetups, go into whatever it is they do, movie nights, screenings, workshops, even if they're online, if they're in person, whatever it is. See if you can maybe, if it's an online group mostly, then see if you can organize something to meet up in person. We've done a few of those for Script Camp, including Halloween movie days here in LA, which was pretty fun. So networking is going to be really big for you. And as it always is, but especially in a smaller scene like London. It's smaller than Hollywood, but it's very active. And there's a lot of talent, and it all concentrates there. So it's a smaller talent pool, but the talent rises very much to the top. Okay. And keep looking at other stuff too. Plays, especially. London is a big theater town. Hollywood is not a big theater town, so you have opportunities there. You have the chance to meet actors or to go to workshops or improv. I'm sure I don't know about improv in the UK. I'm pretty sure you have it in London. Like, it's a pretty big thing in London, at least. And Edinburgh, because of Fringe Festival and things like this. So network in the world of making, especially short films, student films, and music videos. Try to get on sets, if you can. Offer to volunteer for free. Say, I'll be a PA. I'll do whatever you want. I got a car. If you have a car, you have a huge advantage here. You don't have a car. Okay, well, that's all right. You think of what you do have to offer, right? Even if what you have to offer is, I'll do whatever you say without complaining, and I don't need to be paid. Or maybe I'll bring the food, guys. How can I help? What can I bring? That's a huge net gain for lower scale productions, especially student films, especially music videos. You know, stuff like this will need all hands they can get. So they're glad to take people for the most part, unless you're like unbearably weird. Then they'll be, and even if you are, then maybe they are too. So network like crazy, write all you can and improve as much as you can. And when you feel you're getting to the stage where you're maybe approaching the point where you could make a short or make a movie, then show it to those people in that peer group. See what they think. Get feedback. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you just reminded me. I think my cousin, he's at least in the art scene. He might be in with some of the, maybe some people doing films, so maybe I could talk to him. I haven't spoken to him for a while though. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, maybe find a good reason to. I just finished my first feature. Is always a good, hey, check this out kind of thing, right? If you finish your horror movie, or maybe you write a great short, or maybe you have something to show, right? It's not just showing up being like, give me work. You actually show up like, I'm taking this seriously. Like, I want to get more into this. How can I learn from you? How can I work with you? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I say I might just go meet up with him because he's my cousin. I haven't seen him for a while. It'd be nice to see him.
Sure. Yeah, good excuse. And you can talk ideas too. Like, maybe maybe he has his own ideas for features and things like that as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Hope that helps. Go ahead.
Speaking of pitching, so I'm curious about like what the pitch targeting is nowadays. Is it going on like websites and emailing directors like IMDb? Is it entering these fellowships? Is it going in person to these large events and cold walking up to people? What are most people doing nowadays to go and pitch their work and gaining traction?
Sure, good question. So the answer is everything and all of the above. You have to try as many avenues as you can, because most of them will not succeed. Like, not because your work isn't there or anything like that. It may very well be great, but there's a lot of other people doing all of the things we mentioned as well. So you have to stand out, and you have to be very persistent and not give up. To begin with, differentiating yourself and standing out above the pack by with some kind of accolades, winning a festival or placing in the top 10 of some kind of contest or fellowship are often a great place to start. From there, you can even query managers if you place high enough in something that matters enough. Like if you're semifinals and nickel or above, I would say maybe like 1 in 4 or 1 in 3 people who get to nickel semifinals will be able to get a manager based off of that. That's not a hard and fast statistic. That's just given the writers I know, I guess, and that might change over time. But if you place in nickel semis or nickel top 50, you can at least probably get some reads. And then having a manager will really help in terms of getting work as well. Go ahead.
Is the blacklist enough, or do I need more than just a blacklist?
It is, you mean, the blacklist website, blcklst.com, is an evaluation site where so for those who don't know, I'm just going to explain really quickly what that is. So that is we might as well just go to it as well. blcklst, not the whole word. It has no vowels in it. Okay, so Blacklist is one of these discovery type sites, right? Where you post your scripts here, you pay money, it's not cheap, and you can host your script for industry members to find and download and comment on. And if you score high enough, then it goes out on a kind of email blast to a bunch of their, industry members who would then be more likely to find it. And if they find it, they might request to meet with you or read other stuff from you. Is this enough? Usually not. It's very rare to see cases where somebody posts a script to the Blacklist and then they get a career just based off that alone. You have to kind of constantly be breaking in. Breaking in is not like one thing you do. It's like it's like the sum of a series of actions, and actions that you have to keep taking, even after you feel like you've, quote, shouldn't I have made it by now, right? Like, I have my manager. Guess what? I've had 2 managers. I'm working on the 3rd one now. So that's always part of this too, is that even once it feels like you're there or you should be there, there's more work to be done, or you backslide, or your manager drops you, or he quits the business, or your movie falls apart and the deal dissolves at the last second. You have to constantly be putting your stuff out there and trying and doing everything. So I'd recommend Blacklist. Don't rely on it too much. It's so expensive, and it's like $100 per entry. So you pay $75 or $85 even. I think they raised the price per script upload, and then $25 per month per script on top of that. So that's so expensive that I can't in good conscience recommend it as like a good breaking in strategy. But if you have a great script that you know is quite good, and you're not at the stage where you just need notes to improve it, like don't post to Blacklist as a way to get notes. You want to post to Blacklist when you're pretty sure it's good enough, and you want to take a pull of the slot machine to see if you can get a reader that will give you an 8. If you get an 8, and it's really hard to get an 8, then you can use that to query, and sometimes you will be contacted based off that, so it can help you. So at the point that you are successful and confident with a script, and it's maybe placed in a few other contests, that's the stage I would upload to Blacklist. But if you don't score well, don't sweat it that much, because like the readers get paid like $40 a read. They aren't necessarily gonna always be fully on board with what you're doing. There's like, I don't mean to say this in like a way to denigrate these readers in any way, but the script that got me signed in 2017 and got me meetings all over Hollywood got a 4 out of 10 on the Blacklist. So for whatever that tells you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay. So there are good readers, and there are those that give good notes, and there are talented people that work for Blacklist as readers, but you have like a 1 in 100 chance of getting them. So it's such an expensive slot machine. I don't recommend pulling it often.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. That clears up a lot of information about Blacklist.
Yeah, no problem. I would say especially if you have a script in a low budget genre category. If you have a low budget contained horror or thriller, you probably should post it to Blacklist once you are sure that it's it's in a good state and it's on its 4th or 5th draft. Great question. We have just a few minutes left. Any last questions on either what we talked about today in terms of working up to a logline and story beats and deriving your story beats from your well-constructed logline, or anything linked to this idea of writing features professionally? If there's nothing else, and nothing else you guys want to work on or look at, no more loglines, then we will wrap up for today. Last call. Okay, we'll wrap up for today then. So your goal for next time, finish your logline, start to organize those story beats, or at least put those first few things on your plot beat board from your logline, so you can just copy and paste them from the logline where they would go on that 3-act structure. We'll get more into structure because we did a pretty quick explanation of it today. So in the following weeks, we will get more into that and give more detail if you're wondering about how 3-act structure works. And then lastly, your goal for next time is to read a complete professional feature script from beginning to end. It doesn't have to be in one sitting. You don't have to print it out. You can read it on your tablet. You can use the Weekend Read app on your phone, which works quite well. You can read it on your PC. You could print it out if you want to, if you have lots of ink. But take notes, write down questions, note what do you like, what do you not like, what do you notice, what do you learn. And we will be doing this every single week. So get reading and start to enjoy reading. If you don't already, train yourself to build the attention span and the skills necessary to read lots of scripts. All right. So that's going to wrap us up for today. We will be back same time slot next week. And also, if you're a member, we have those labs that I mentioned where you can bring up to 5 pages of whatever you're working on. So that would be 5 pages of script or up to 1,500 words of prose for a novel. And you can bring them to either of 2 labs. One session is Fridays, so this morning, 12 to 2. And then our other session is tomorrow, Saturdays, from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. You can come and ask about whatever you want or do one-on-one work and brainstorming or loglines, outlines, pages, whatever you've got. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Looking forward to seeing everyone's ideas in this new group session. And hopefully everyone will be here next week to move to the next stage and to start nailing down the story of your upcoming screenplay. Thanks, guys. We are going to wrap up there, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you here next week, August 23rd, at the same time. Thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your night.